Okay. Okay, so welcome to Lou Nevitt and Co. So we are a support network for ambitious and adventurous women through motherhood. And in these conversations, I'm going to be catching up with different guests about their own experience and journey into parenthood. And the aim is to shed a bit of light, really, on the different experiences that can happen within parenthood and help mothers to feel seen and heard, and hopefully prepare them for their own journeys as well. So today I am joined by a lovely fellow Mama Rising grad, and her name is Jane. She is based in Scotland and is originally from a national level athletics background. So Jane had her own experience of entering motherhood, which has now led her to creating a growing platform called YourMumFit. And that provides support through physical, emotional, and identity shifts that come with motherhood. It's now spanning across courses, an upcoming book, and she's also supporting Dr. Oscar Serrallach in his upcoming course, Mothermorphosis. So, Jane, hello. Thank you
Hello.
for speaking to me today. We've been having a little catch up before the recording, and it's very easy for us to kind of talk for hours and hours, I think, about the different experiences and kind of expectations that come with this world of motherhood. So I thought it might be a really great place for us to start about talking with your experience of life before motherhood and what your expectations were. Where were you at before you became a mum?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. It's great to come and speak to you.
Yeah.
Before motherhood, I was what you would probably call one of these high achievers. So I had my career that was successful, and I was happy, and I was going places. I was developing. Sport is my hobby. It's my background. I've done sport all my life, and so I've got a job in Sport Scotland, so the National Agency for Sport. So I get to
Amazing.
make contact with all the different sports governing bodies across Scotland and find out about lots of different sports. So I love it because it gives me such a broad flavour of what's happening out there in sport across Scotland. So, great career, great people, great place to be. And outside that, I was still doing my hobby athletics. I'd returned to that after a break. I've got Crohn's disease, and so the diagnosis of that kind of derailed any activity when I was younger. But I came back to it later in adulthood, and before having kids, I went all the way to Australia for the World Masters Athletics Champs, came home with a bronze medal, two bronze medals actually, a fourth place and a Scottish record. So I was
Wow.
somebody who said, right, I want to do X. In order to achieve that, I need to do ABC. And off I went.
Yeah.
So I had this expectation of motherhood being very similar. I would
Yeah.
change my lifestyle, but I would be able to do what I set out to because I would plan it and control
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Good one. That's probably one of the biggest expectation fails, I think, that mothers have is that we're not maybe equipped enough with the knowledge of what's to come and how things can change, not just your life with the baby, your actual mothering, but your whole life changes, right? And it does make everything turn upside down. And I think, yeah, I can relate with you there about not thinking much would change and thinking that, you're just going to breeze through it. It's just going to be another thing that you're going to be able to tick off the list.
Yeah, I mean, and you see all this stuff in the media of like all these people doing great things and achieving great things, and they've got their kids with them. And for me, in a sports context, I saw elite athletes coming back to a high level sport with kids, young kids, and still achieving a really good level of activity. And I just thought I'd be the
Mm,
same. I'd maybe scale down some of the stuff that was in my life to be able to make room for a baby, but I'd still still be having my career, I'd still be a competitive athlete. And I actually secretly harboured an ambition to go to the World Champs at the next round in Malaga with I think should have been about maybe 7, 8 months at that time. So, I
Yeah.
had this really unrealistic expectation of how I'd be able to have my life in motherhood because of everything that I saw around me in the media. And it doesn't really tell you about the realities of that and how those
Mm,
people you see probably have an army of support around them, or their
absolutely.
journeys have maybe been a bit different. And if I had quite a bumpy journey, so that's got to be factored into why I didn't achieve what I expected to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like you see it as you're going to become a mother, and your child and your life as a mother is just going to slot in to how life is at the moment. Nothing needs to change. Why would it? You're going to be okay. You're just going to slot it in. As you say, you have a look online, you see celebrities or other sports people doing
Mhm.
things that you think you should be doing. But as you say, you don't see the other side of it. You don't often see what is behind the curtain and the army of support, as you put it, that they have behind them. And I think general women that are going through the trenches of motherhood, that often can lead to a real feeling of failure, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I felt like I'd failed because I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. I didn't have that awareness or understanding at the time to appreciate that I don't have any grandparents local to me. It's just me and my husband, and with him working full time, I was kind of on my own. And then there was all the
Mm,
challenges that we had with our daughter when she was born that I didn't really factor into why I wasn't achieving what I'd expected to. Never
mm.
mind that fact that what they're doing was really ambitious and all supported. I just expected I could just do me, and it was a bit of yeah. I felt like a failure.
Mm. And I think that is such a common feeling, whether it's at somebody competing at a sporting event and at a level such as you, or whether it's somebody just seeing the perfect mum on Instagram and not having that own experience for themselves. It is such a common feeling. And you and I have in common that we both completed our Mama Rising training, which is based around the idea of supporting women through matrescence. And matrescence, for people that don't know that word, is the word that we use to describe that process that you go through from not being a mum to becoming a mum, and then it continues through your motherhood journey. But if you were to describe that kind of section of your life, could you talk about that a little bit? Like, what was your experience, your own experience of going from this kind of, very high achieving, ambitious woman with expectations of what motherhood would look like to the reality? What was that like for you?
Um, Black and white, really. My expectations were one thing, and reality was a completely different case.
Mm,
I was talking about how I set out, I wanted to achieve something, and I just mapped out the steps. Well, my pregnancy was probably falling neatly into that. Um, First of all, I didn't expect to get pregnant very quickly because of my Crohn's and the medication. So I was
yeah.
like, okay, it might take a while to get pregnant. We got pregnant within a few weeks of starting to try. And then I breezed through pregnancy. I didn't have sickness. I didn't have any pain. I continued to do my athletics training quite well into my pregnancy. I was running quite late, and it was only sort of towards the end that I changed the sort of running to jogging and walking and then into the pool, and doing lots of mobility work to ease any aches and pains that were starting to creep in towards the end. But my pregnancy was, I was one of those really annoying people that didn't really bother about pregnancy. It was great. But it was only when I went into labour or got to that point that things started to go wrong and the control was taken away from me. I was diagnosed with obstetric cholestasis,
Oh my
and I was
goodness.
told at the time that I needed to be induced or risk a stillbirth. Now, I didn't, first time mum, I didn't know anything about the conditions other than the snippets you read in the motherhood books. And
Of
so
course.
I didn't know to chat to the doctors about, what does this mean? Let's dig deeper, and where's my measurements sitting on the charts compared to where the real red line is, to be able to actually really challenge whether an induction was necessary. But so I went with it. I went in and I got induced, and seemed to be a really busy day for having babies, and there weren't enough staff to cope, and I was left. I was actually in labour on a full ward of 4 people, all also induced, all with their families there, and I'm in labour behind the curtain because I wanted to go and hide. As you do in labour, you want to go and have that
Of
private space.
course, yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
get that at all, and it was hours and hours later. I think I'd heard about 5 in the morning, the girl next door to me was told that she could go through when they next had a bed available. 6 p.m, I skipped ahead of her and got a room in the labour ward, but with no midwife to go with it.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
it was just a string of one mishap after another. My water's broken. My husband, he's just seen stuff on the TV. When this water's hit the floor, he went into panic mode. Thankfully, he works in the NHS, so he's used to those environments. He just grabbed an apron, put it on, and was going to get ready to catch. We all know it doesn't work like that, thankfully.
At least he was trying to be prepared.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
Yes. And so things didn't proceed very well, and eventually I ended up.
Gosh.
She was born, and she didn't respond. So straight away, she was taken away to resus, and at those days, it was a distant room on the ward, so she was just gone within 60 seconds, and so it was quite distressing for me to have all that happen. And then she went into the neonatal unit, and she was there for a week, and I got put on the postnatal ward, and obviously, as any mother would, I spent my time on the neonatal ward next to my baby. And of course, the matron on the ward was always giving me a telling off for not being there. And there was just this...
Just stressful.
Yeah.
Immediately stressful, not at all like what you said before about the expectations. You do have that view of what it should be like, and what it should, rightly so, what it should be like. You should be able to relax and recover with your baby, especially after such a traumatic time. That is just, it's just awful, like traumatizing, really.
Yes. And then it didn't really get any better. She was in neonatal for a week. It got out fine, but we had issues with feeding. She really struggled with feeding, and she wouldn't sleep either. So that she didn't put on any weight, and there wasn't much support around that, and so the lack of sleep, what it's like, it builds up and builds up and builds up. And I got to a point where I thought, my mental health's not really good here. I'm having these wacky dreams about having to, my husband and I, in this one dream, were going to a meeting place to hand our baby over to this other couple because I wasn't able to look after. So I was talking to my health visitor about, I'm having these dreams, and this is what I'm feeling. And it was like clear signs of PTSD that I was going through and explaining to her. And all she did was say to the student that was next to her, these are the things you need to look out for with mums whose babies have been taken from them at birth. She never then did anything to help me. So I kind of struggled on my own with that and got depression through the feeding issues and the lack of sleep. And, I used to go out walking and running. I didn't know if I'd brushed my hair or teeth in the mornings, let alone got back into life. And so it wasn't until I was about 14 months postpartum when I came back to work and the wheels really fell off. And I had a really understanding line manager who just said, look, take time off, go and get the help you need to come back when you're ready. And that's when I did actually get the support. But, by then, the day-to-day rhythm of life was just broken, I guess. I was just constantly tired, not enjoying life, really miserable. And motherhood just wasn't what I expected it to be. And I wasn't being the mother that I expected to be. And it just was a really challenging time. And I didn't know about matrescence at that point. I didn't understand what I was going through. So I didn't have those words to understand my world.
It must have been a really frightening time for you, because it is that feeling of being in a tunnel and you just can't see the light at the end, can you? You're unsure of everything, and you're unsure of every step you make. Why am I like this? Why am I not like that? Again, coming back to those expectations. And as you say, you didn't know that you weren't the only one to be dealing with that kind of situation. You didn't know that it's so common, especially when you talk about your story. when you talk about what happened to you and what you had to go through from that point of going into labor, it's just, it's it's crazy to expect somebody to bounce back so quickly from something like that. Say bounce back, try and ban myself from saying that because we don't want to bounce back.
No.
But to recover from that and to, go on. I mean, the course that you are now working with Dr. Oscar Serrallach, that's a very big part of his teaching, isn't it? About postnatal depletion, and how if we don't give mothers that time to recover and that time to put them, recover hormonally and get the rest that they need, that it can of course lead to long lasting problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a second child about 3.5 years after my
Hmm.
first, and he would have been about 9 months when I stumbled across Amy Taylor Cabaz and the Mama Rising program. And as you'll know from having done it, that was game changing for me. It gave me the words to explain what was going on, and it gave me an understanding of what I was going through. And depletion was exactly where I was. And thankfully, Amy includes a reference to Oscar in
Yeah.
her teachings. And so I then set
Excellent.
off down the path and bought Oscar's book and signed up to the newsletter. And then he was off like advertising round two of Mothermorphosis that he was delivering, which was to help mums help themselves out of postnatal depletion. And I signed up to that. And it was as transformative for me as Mama Rising was. Mama Rising gave me that understanding of matrescence and what on earth is going on. Mothermorphosis gave me that understanding of me and my body and what's happened to it and why and what I can do to help myself recover so that I can get back
Yeah.
to being who I want to be.
And so so your second one was still small at that point, but what about your older one? What age were they at that point when you did
Um,
that?
when I did Mama Rising, he would have just turned 1, so she would have been 4. And then I did Oscar's course about a year later, so he was 2 and she was 5. They're now
Okay.
they're now 4 and 7.
And do you feel like, for anybody that is interested in doing it, do you feel like that course is something that you can do regardless of the age of your children, regardless of where you are in your motherhood journey? If you feel good, if you feel better, if you suffered before and now you kind of feel all right, is it still something that, can be beneficial?
Absolutely. You don't have to be in the thick of it to go and do that course and get something from it.
Yeah,
Because the effects of the postpartum period can last for years and years.
of
And
course.
certainly I'm my youngest is 4 now, and I'm still probably finding my way back into my
Mm,
full state again. And it teaches you lots about it, gives you that matrescence background, and then it goes into the sleep and the dietary needs and the nervous system. And so for me, that's really important, because having my nervous system stabilized through motherhood, regardless of whether my kids are 2 or 20, there's going to be some stress that they're going to bring into my life.
yeah,
So knowing how to look after myself and my nervous system so that my body's in a healthy flow state, and I can recognize when I'm going off track, and I have tools that I can use to then calm myself down and bring myself back. So,
yeah,
regardless of where you are, you're going to get something from it.
yeah, amazing. It is incredible, and I know, and his work is just, every time I listen to anything with him, whether it's a podcast or reading a book or whatever, it's kind of like, oh, yes, of course, makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what about your mum fit? So what led you then from going from this terrible traumatic experience to kind of struggling through those years? Then you found these two courses, and then was that when your mum fit came into play?
No, it actually came into play in a different sort of concept before that. My husband is from San Sebastian in the north of Spain, and we spent some of my first maternity leave out there. I would have thought that we might move. And if we did move, I was going to have to leave my job and find something else. And so my head was always going, oh, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And through the experiences I'd had of having a challenge in matrescence and not having the support or information that I needed, I was like, right, I can maybe serve other women with what I didn't have but needed. I didn't quite know what it looked like at that time. I think I was probably, because I was connect with the home workout crew that I met here, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's that in helping mums find some me time where they also do exercise that's good for them. And I kind of dabbled with that, but I just didn't find something or create something that I thought was quite right. And it was always just something that was bubbling away under the surface, but I never acted on it because I had a job and kids. And, there's not much time outside that. Right. So I just had it there, but didn't do much with it. And then when I did Mama Rising, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I know where I'm going. This is it. Mums need to know about this. And I came up with YourMumFit because it's about finding your fit as a mum. Because I didn't know where I was as a mother. I didn't find that I fitted my own skin. And that was what I wanted to help other women do. And because I've got my sporty background, there's always going to be an element of movement in whatever I do with women. So there's that kind of fitness bit, but there's also the fit in who you are. So that's the little play in words that I came up with.
Yeah, I love that.
So with Amy's work and the facilitator training that she offered, I got right that I want to coach women through this and really help them with understanding what they're going through and knowing that it's okay, it's normal, and giving them that world of through the words that I got from Amy. And then after I'd done Mothermorphosis, I was like, oh wow, there's another element here to this that's the path I want. I was completely depleted. This has really helped me. That needs to be weaved into it because that is so important. So that's why I've kind of come down the YourMumFit route, as finding their fit as a mum through the coaching or the understanding of what matrescence is and what's going on to them in that sociological context, but then bringing in the postnatal depletion to understand the physical and physiological aspects of it, and that connect with community.
Yeah.
Because that was a really important element of both courses, actually, is that connect with other women and talking it through that I hadn't found in real life. I say real life, I mean like in person rather than not through a screen. And so that's where YourMumFit was born. I wanted to create a space for women to get that coaching through it and have a connected community where they felt seen and heard and safe. Because I didn't always feel safe in my community groups in the local area because I always felt judged or like I was.
What is that comparison, isn't it? That comparison again, and often I suppose in local groups where it's like a mum's group, the conversation doesn't often go to the darker side and the things that people don't want to talk about because everyone is worried that they're going to look like they're failing. No one wants to talk about it, so it is difficult to get that, but also so important. Yeah, it is. Incredible. Well, it's beautiful what you've done, and to see it growing as well. It must be really, really exciting for you, and also you must feel really proud because you've kind of built something that you could have done with back then. So it's that nice feeling of knowing that you've built something that is available for other mums if they're going through what you went through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have YourMumFit, and then now, very exciting, you have an upcoming book, which is very exciting. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
I've decided that my life's not hard enough as it is, so I'm going to add right up in the mix. During the Mothermorphosis program, we had weekly circles, and then during that time, we also decided that we would also all share our story of matrescence. And so as I sat week in, week out, listening to these other stories, I could see myself in lots of different parts of them. And I was like, people need to know about this. This makes me feel better. And we were all helping each other just by telling our stories. And like we don't have those stories to tell in circles in our culture and communities anymore. So I was like, oh, this needs to be shared. So at that point, I was like, I'm going to publish a book, and it's going to be called Stories of Matrescence, and it's going to be just this. But then life evolved, and I didn't have time to write a book, so I put it on hold. And last summer, I had major bowel surgery, so I was off work for quite a while, and I stumbled across this thing on Facebook, as you do, about learn how to write a book and a 5-day challenge. And I said, okay, right, I'll do it. I'm off work. I'll give me something to do. I'll probably not get much from it, I've not really done that with Facebook before. And I signed up, and honestly, it blew my mind. It just changed completely how I saw writing a book. And by that point, my idea of the book content had shifted anyway through sort of reflecting on what I'd got out of Mothermorphosis. And so I listened to this and I was like, oh, I could really do something here. So I had conversations with the publisher that was running that, and about a month later, I'd signed a book deal. And I've got to have it first draft in by, I don't know, March, April, Easter anyway. So yeah, and the book's going to be about what I've just explained. It's going to explain what matrescence is, and the sociological side of things. It's going to then give you a bit of detail about the physical changes, and then it's going to give you a bit about what you can do to look after yourself to help you find who you are again and mother, find that identity again. And it'll be threaded through there. There'll be stories of real women that kind of meet each of the concepts of matrescence, so that it gives you a real life story that explains the concept that I've just described. And each chapter is going to have some reflective exercises and tools that you can do to relate that back to your own life, and maybe see how you can use that to help yourself.
Brilliant. Needed. Very, very, very needed. So well done. And I'm very excited to see that when it comes out, give it a read. Great. So that then brings me on to your next thing. You're such a busy bee, now. So the course starts next week with Dr. Oscar Serrallach. So we've touched a little bit about the course and about Dr. Oscar Serrallach as well. So what else do people need to know about that course, and why would they do it? Why should they do it?
Yeah. Well, the course is kind of got two threads to it. So you've got the science piece, if you like, that Oscar explains, that gives you the understanding and the knowledge and the education. And then alongside that, his partner Caroline leads up the circle element of it. So she led our weekly circles when I did the programme. And that's where we just get together and we talk about that topic of that week. And we share our roses and our buds and our thorns. So things that are going well, things that are just starting to grow, and other things that are going not so well. And then we share our experiences. And it's a non-judgmental space. You share stories, not advice. And just listening to other people is helpful for yourself. And then you can get your piece out and then get that sort of feeling of connect and community. And, I did that programme, must be about 2 years ago now, and we're still in touch. We've got an alumni group that's in a WhatsApp group, and we're all still in touch and following each other's journeys and cheering each other on. So it was something that most of them are in Australia or America, and I feel more supported by them than I do any mothers group that I had here. It's just an amazing space that Caroline created, and she's got a lot of wisdom to bring in from that kind of spiritual side and understanding the goddess inside you, if you like. She brings in the spirits and the sort of history of women, in the sense of why we are where we are and why we feel the way we feel. And this round that they're offering, they've opened up spaces for 3 of the grads to facilitate the circles. So we've got Steph that's going to facilitate a circle in Australasia time, and we've got Jackie who's hosting the US circle, and then myself who's doing Europe circle. So there's lots of different time zones for people to pick from that suit their lifestyle. So the education piece from Oscar will be a pre-recorded piece that they can listen to in the car, on a walk, at home, wherever, however. And then the
Yeah,
circles is that chance to come together as a group and just chat and connect.
brilliant. And hearing you talk about that course alone is just really inspiring. It's obviously changed your life a lot and had
Mm.
such an incredible effect. And I like the way that both of them, that Oscar and his wife, bring the very different elements to it. So he's obviously talks a lot more about the kind of physiological side of things and what's actually happening from a kind of hormonal and body point of view, I suppose. Whereas she has that more kind of ancestral knowledge and like, tapping into women and what we need. So it sounds incredible. What would be Who is the perfect person that this can help?
It can help any mum that's sort of feeling overwhelmed or burnt out or exhausted or just not quite feeling themselves in motherhood. They just don't, something's not right and they can't quite find their way out of it. And this can really help them with their physical health in terms of the sleep and the nutrition side of things,
Hmm.
as then also the understanding of the space they're in and how to care for themselves through that period. Because, prior to this, I wasn't a spiritual person at all. I was, I don't know if it's the Scot in me that's a bit like, well, I don't know anything about that. But I learned so much from Caroline, and I'm able to kind of let go and actually do some of the chant work and the
Yeah.
meditation work that I wouldn't have been able to do before. And when I first had counselling after having my first daughter, the counsellor kept asking me, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I don't know how I'm feeling. I think I must be a stone or something." Whereas through that and getting doing some of this work with Amy and then Caroline in Mothermorphosis, I'm able to tap into that a bit better, and I'm making real progress in understanding that and listening to myself and tapping
Mm.
into the inner wisdom that I just would probably have ignored or not even heard before.
Yeah, it's really incredible, isn't it? That,
Mm.
when you do start to learn a bit more about that and soften to it a bit, then it can be life-changing. So, yeah, brilliant. So when does this course start, and are there still available slots?
Yep, the course starts on the 26th of January, so that is next week.
Yeah.
And there are still spaces available. If you go to, I can give you the web link to put in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, and then if anybody wants to explore that a bit further, they can, or they can contact you as well. We'll
Yeah,
include that as well. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for chatting to me today. I love your story, and I think it's so inspiring and important to share. So thank you. And yeah, I'll really look forward to reading your book, and good luck with the course next week.
great. Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Bye.
Bye.